Hello friends, new tragedies in Poland. Unfortunately, it's a sad topic. A drunk driving incident with passengers near Wroclaw, deadly acetaminophen for a heart attack in Warsaw, and a harsh lesson from dangerous mountains. Let's look at three stories that show what human negligence, foolishness, and blind overconfidence in the face of nature can lead to. We'll discuss everything now. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks to everyone who doesn't mind. These simple actions only take 2 seconds. Drop a like for the working class. Drop a like for aerodynamics. Well, let's get down to business. Yes, it may seem like it's the 21st century, but some people are guided by the logic of, I don't know, the early Middle Ages, which is hard to understand. In short, people just don't understand that the laws of physics and traffic rules actually exist. Night, July 31st, Lower Silesia, the town of Sekninsk, that's near Wroclaw. A German engineering marvel, an Audi A4 is speeding down the night road. And it would be one thing if they were driving for a reason, but there are 7 people in the car, aged 19 to 27. But let's just say there wasn't much space in the car, and they couldn't think of anything better than to put one of the ladies right in the trunk. That's the kind of fun company they were. On top of that, they had fueled up with plenty of alcohol and decided to go for a ride. And behind the wheel was a man who had long been strictly forbidden to even touch the steering wheel. As you can tell from the headline, all of them were citizens of Ukraine. How do you think this was supposed to end? That's right. That's right, a car accident, and it happened when they met a centuries-old Polish tree. Apparently it was inevitable. The result of this recklessness was a completely wrecked car, 4 people in the hospital, and the unfortunate woman from the trunk suffered severe injuries, a broken spine and ribs. How did she end up there? Well, it's clear she was put there. But what was she using for a brain? What were any of them using for brains? That's a separate question, of course. Well, the investigators will look into that. But the surrealism of the story didn't end there. When the police arrived at the scene of the accident, the brother of the unfortunate driver showed up as well. Maybe he wanted to sort things out, I don't know. And he was also completely wasted. In the end, the police detained both of them. Now the driver is facing 12 years in prison, a lifetime driving ban, and possibly deportation on the horizon. The moral of this story? Drunk driving and completely ignoring basic safety rules while hoping for sheer luck always ends the same way, badly. Skid marks on the asphalt and a place in the defendant's dock. What else? Oh, friends, races. All right, next we have the following story. A wild one came from the city of Warsaw. You'd think the capital of a European country, 21st century advanced medicine. But when you come face to face with the real situation in some hospitals, your hair stands on end. Share your thoughts on Polish medicine in the comments. On May 14, a 61-year-old resident of Warsaw, Ms. Grozina, suddenly felt unwell right at a bus stop. She had chest pain, shortness of breath, and her blood pressure was over 200. The article says it was 220 over 147. In short, it was an acute heart attack. The ambulance responded quickly. By 10:50, the woman had already been taken to the Brodno-Mazowian Hospital Center. This is where the farce starts, which, spoiler, ended in tragedy. It was in the ER intake area. Let us know in the comments how long you've waited in the ER. I was in the ER once, and I waited for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Yeah, I cut my hand with some shavings there, and I still have a scar. So, the patient with obvious symptoms of a heart attack is being seen by Dr. David Kapczyk. He's already a well-known figure because of a scandal at another Warsaw clinic. What does the doctor do? He assigns the seriously ill patient a yellow status. Her condition is stable, she can wait, nothing will happen to her. Medical experts and cardiologists were simply shocked when they found out. The very first cardiogram and tests were already screaming that the person was having a heart attack. The troponin level was 6 times higher than normal. Following protocol, the woman should have gone straight to intensive care. Instead, the doctor said her condition was good. Let's give that a like, right? He prescribes paracetamol and says, just wait, lady. As a result, while the troponin levels were skyrocketing to an unbelievable 2,200, the heart was literally tearing apart, tearing into pieces. The patient spent more than 5 hours waiting for help. Ms. Grozim was brought to the cardiac intensive care unit already unconscious. The doctors fought for her life, but it was too late. There was a rupture of the myocardial wall. The woman, as you can imagine, passed away, and now the hospital is, as usual, distancing itself from the press. They say, wait, we don't have time for you right now. Medical confidentiality. The doctor himself is avoiding comments. The prosecutor's office has started an investigation into causing death unintentionally. The story is extremely telling and sad. When instead of strictly following professional duty and basic instructions, we see negligence and indifference, and of course, in the end, who pays for this? A person pays with their life. That's the kind of interesting story we have. By the way, we should talk about these medical scandals sometime. It definitely deserves a separate video. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. Moving on. Next, let's probably move on to the Tatras. To the Tatras, my friends, well, I don't think I'll surprise anyone. Actually, maybe I will surprise someone. You see, mountains are not a walk in the park, right? Mountains are a harsh force of nature that demands only one thing from everyone who comes. Damn, attentiveness and discipline. So when there's not enough discipline or when the human body fails, the consequences come very, very fast. In short, just 5 days were enough for a whole series of tragedies to unfold in the Tatras. 3 lives lost. The first 2 incidents happened near the famous Risi mountain. First, on Tuesday on the Polish side and exactly a day later on the Slovak side. The tourists' hearts suddenly stopped right on the trail. Well, I don't know, maybe it was hot there, but in general, people around didn't panic, right? And the rescuers from the Polish and Slovak services did everything they could, but there wasn't enough time to save the victims. The hours-long grueling climb, drastic altitude change, heat, and extreme strain all make it a brutal test for the cardiovascular system. If a person has hidden health problems, such strain becomes a death sentence. But even more dramatic events unfolded near the summit of Vysokaya. 2 young mountaineers from Poland decided to challenge one of the most difficult peaks of the high Tatras. The conditions were terrible. The rocks, after rain mixed with snow, were wet, icy, and slippery. And well, you have to give the guys credit, right? They showed maturity and made the only right decision, to turn back. However, the elements can be blindly cruel even to those who seem to do everything by the book. On the descent from the ridge, a young man, 21 years old, slipped and fell into an abyss, 150 meters. As you can imagine that he had no chance of survival. 150 meters is like a 50-story building. Mountain rescuers never get tired of repeating a well-known truth. Reaching the summit is only half the journey. The real test begins when you have to descend to the valley before dark and unharmed. It is during the descent, when your attention dulls and your legs give way from exhaustion, that the overwhelming majority of fatal mistakes happen. Some people consider retreat a shame, like damn, I paid for the tickets, paid for the entrance, got ready, the summit is right there within arm's reach. Am I really leaving empty-handed without conquering it? But I'll tell you, as a grown man, not a 40-year-old kid, the ability to turn back and leave at the right time is not weakness, but the highest form of wisdom. The mountains will stand for another 100, maybe even 200,000 years, I think, and they're not going anywhere. But a person only has one life. So friends, here's some sad, tragic news from Poland. Well, I can't call it positive, but I'd say it's darkly funny. But nevertheless, in my opinion, this story is a bit lighter. In Poland, the breathalyzer didn't have a high enough scale to measure how drunk the tractor driver was. What's 150 plus 150? Write in the comments if you know. On July 20th in the Maslowis commune, which is near Łódź, the police noticed a tractor that was swerving and zigzagging along the road. When the officers signaled him to stop, the 57-year-old man hit the gas instead and tried to get away, but he didn't get far. Yes, the patrol blocked the tractor and detained the driver, and the man reeked strongly of alcohol. However, during the check, it turned out that the breathalyzer couldn't show a result because the alcohol level was higher than the device's maximum range. The police had to take his blood for analysis to determine his exact blood alcohol concentration. During the check, something else was discovered. The man had never obtained a driver's license, and the tractor he was driving wasn't registered at all. The vehicle was towed to the impound lot. The Pole is facing charges. Yes, just to clarify, he was not a citizen of Ukraine. The Pole faces up to 5 years in prison for attempting to evade the police. If the blood test confirms severe intoxication, he will also be charged with driving under the influence. In addition, he will be held accountable for driving without a license and operating an unregistered tractor. Why does he do that? It's a real mystery to me. Well, maybe he never expected to meet the police in his life, but as you can see, sooner or later, it catches up with you. So, friends, that's the information. Well, honestly, let's look for something positive. I'm sure, I think the day after tomorrow, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, there will be a new video. Only good news from Poland, but for now it is what it is. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones, leave likes, write comments. See you next time. A big shout out to the working class.